This guy, possessing an incredibly high EQ, stumbled into a job interview at a prestigious law firm. With his exceptional memory, he outperformed numerous well-prepared candidates, landing a position at the renowned firm. Kang Seok is the top lawyer at Kang & Anam, a prominent Seoul law firm. At work, he's decisive and calculating. A few carefully chosen words from him can convince a National Assembly member to grant scholarships on behalf of the firm. He's also sharp-tongued, leaving rude clients speechless. Due to his immense value, he's promoted to chief attorney by Representative Kang. Representative Kang then instructs him to set aside his caseload and personally recruit a highly competent assistant. Meanwhile, this impoverished, high-IQ young man, Yeon-woo, is summoned by his friend Cheol-soon, who works at a nightclub, to showcase his extraordinary memory skills in front of a wealthy young man in exchange for money. Intrigued, the rich kid places 3 1,000,000 won checks under 3 glasses of liquor to test Yeon-woo's memory. A correct answer earns him a check. A wrong answer means he has to down the glass. With that, the rich kid pulls out a tablet, deliberately choosing difficult and bizarre questions. To his surprise, Yeon-woo answers flawlessly. 3 consecutive questions from different fields are met with fluent and accurate responses. The rich kid, further intrigued, adds something to the liquor and tells Yeon-woo to drink it before they continue. This time, Yeon-woo refuses to cooperate, grabs the 3 checks, and declares the game over. The rich kid calls him back, pours a bottle of liquor into an ice bucket, and produces a stack of checks. If Yeon-woo drinks the entire bucket, the checks are his. Seeing Yeon-woo return, the rich kid laughs, convinced no one could refuse such an offer. Money isn't everything, Yeon-woo scoffs, mocking the rich kid's naivete. He throws the 3 checks back and walks away. Infuriated, the rich kid calls Cheol-soon a short while later, instructing him to deliver a package of drugs to a hotel. He promises a generous reward upon completion, but with the condition that Yeon-woo personally makes the delivery. Blinded by the potential payout, Cheol-soon tries to convince Yeon-woo to help him one more time. Raised by his grandmother with strong moral principles, Yeon-woo refuses to get involved with drugs. Despite Cheol-soon's pleas, he remains steadfast. Yeon-woo goes to visit his grandmother in the hospital, only to be given an ultimatum by the nurse. Pay the outstanding hospital bills or his grandmother will be moved out of her room. Faced with this harsh reality, Yeon-woo is forced to compromise. To get the money, he reluctantly agrees to Cheol-soon's request. Dressed in a suit, Yeon-woo arrives at the designated hotel. Coincidentally, top lawyer Kang Seok is conducting interviews there. He hands a statue to his secretary, instructing her that only those who can name the statue can pass the first round of interviews. Yeon-woo takes the elevator to the specified room. He notices 2 janitors loitering suspiciously outside the room. Observing their appearance and ID cards closely, he realizes they don't match the pictures of the on-duty janitors displayed in the elevator. Sensing something is amiss, he feigns composure and escapes down the stairs. Just then, he receives a call from the rich kid. It turns out the janitors were undercover police officers. It was all a trap set by the rich kid to frame him. Before he can hang up, the 2 officers, finding Yeon-woo suspicious, give chase. Seeing this, Yeon-woo bolts, further convincing the police that he's the drug dealer they're after. Yeon-woo inadvertently runs into the first-floor interview area. He overhears the secretary calling for an interview candidate who doesn't respond. Pretending to be that candidate, he approaches the secretary. Following protocol, the secretary asks him the name of the statue. Yeon-woo correctly identifies it as Kairos, the god of opportunity. Finally, someone has passed Kang Seok's first hurdle. The secretary immediately invites Yeon-woo in for an interview. Seeing someone arrive, Kang Seok asks Yeon-woo to explain how he identified the statue as Kairos. Yeon-woo elaborates eloquently. At first glance, the statue appears to be a woman, but in reality, it depicts a bald man from behind. The lack of hair symbolizes lost opportunities that can never be regained. He then dramatically pulls off the cloth covering the statue's head, declaring it a deceptive trick. Kang Seok is impressed. Just then, Yeon-woo's briefcase bursts open, revealing the drugs. Yeon-woo quickly explains that he's been framed. Kang Seok begins to explain the legal penalties related to drug possession. Before he can finish, Yeon-woo recites all the relevant pharmaceutical laws. In response to Kang Seok's astonishment, he claims to have a photographic memory, able to recall anything after seeing it just once. Aspiring to be a lawyer, he's memorized the entire civil code. Just then, the secretary announces the arrival of 2 police officers. Kang Seok allows them in and gives Yeon-woo a chance to defend himself. The officers state they've received a report accusing Yeon-woo of drug trafficking. Yeon-woo uses legal arguments to contend that the accusation could be a conspiracy and slander. He further points out, quite reasonably, that he has the right to refuse the officers' requests until they inform him of his rights. The 2 officers are rendered speechless. They then demand to search Yeon-woo's bag. Yeon-woo opens it in front of everyone. Inside are only books and documents. It turns out that when Kang Seok opened the door, Yeon-woo swiftly slipped the drugs under the sofa and replaced them with his study materials. Finding no evidence, the police are forced to leave. Highly impressed by Yeon-woo's handling of the situation, Kang Seok offers him the job on the spot, on the condition that he takes the bar exam. Yeon-woo confesses he's already taken it. Orphaned at a young age and raised by his grandmother, he took the exam for someone else in exchange for money. He intentionally answered one question wrong to avoid a perfect score. Kang Seok doesn't pry further, simply instructing Yeon-woo to dispose of the drugs. He's to report to the law firm the next day. Yeon-woo flushes the drugs down the toilet, ready to start his new life. However, upon arriving at the firm, he's informed by Kang Seok that he's been fired. Furthermore, Representative Kang wants to revoke Kang Seok's promotion to chief attorney. It turns out a client, Chairman Park, is dissatisfied with Kang Seok and intends to sue him. Representative Kang argues that a lawsuit against the chief attorney would damage the firm's reputation and upset other partners. Kang Seok admits he's in a difficult position. If it's discovered that Yeon-woo isn't a licensed attorney, it will only exacerbate his problems. Yeon-woo argues logically. He covered for Kang Seok with the police, and Kang Seok is the reason he's even standing there. If he reveals the truth to the police, they'll both go down. Having nothing left to lose, he's not afraid. Kang Seok, on the other hand, might not be able to handle the fallout. Yeon-woo's words mirror what Kang Seok had previously said to Representative Kang. He had also threatened to take all his client files to another firm if he wasn't promoted. Moreover, he points out that Representative Kang shares responsibility for Chairman Park's lawsuit. Backed into a corner, Representative Kang finally agrees to proceed with the original plan, allowing Kang Seok's promotion to chief attorney. Kang Seok, in turn, relents with Yeon-woo, declaring him hired. He's given a mandatory 6-month training period during which he must pass the bar exam. Mirroring the condition for his own promotion, Representative Kang also gives Kang Seok demands: resolve Chairman Park's case cleanly without damaging the firm's reputation and secure Assemblyman Ju as a client within a week. Finally, he must take on a pro bono case to enhance the firm's image. Kang Seok casually assigns this pro bono case to Yeon-woo, ordering him to keep the assignment completely confidential, especially from Representative Kang. Having delegated this task, Kang Seok seeks out his nemesis, Attorney Key, to settle the score. He knows Attorney Key is behind Chairman Park's complaint. He warns Attorney Key not to leave himself vulnerable, as sabotaging colleagues is the firm's biggest taboo. After his intimidation tactic, he went to butter up Assemblyman Ju. He provided the Assemblyman with evidence of his competitors' falsified financial reports. Assemblyman Ju immediately instructed his subordinate to transfer the legal matters to Kang Law Firm. Successfully becoming a client of the firm, Yeon-woo went to report to Jae-na, the assistant in charge of intern assignments. Jae-na recognized him immediately. That morning, Yeon-woo had biked to work, inadvertently splashing mud on Jae-na. Yeon-woo was oblivious to this, but Jae-na remembered his face. She had a negative first impression of him. Following Kang Seok's instructions, Yeon-woo took on a pro bono case. He met with the plaintiff, Kim Mis-yu, to understand the situation. Kim Mis-yu recounted the injustices she faced. She worked as a secretary at a company, and after a week, her boss harassed her. Unable to tolerate it, she protested. As a result, she faced retaliation. Her boss made her face the wall every day and didn't assign her any work. Unable to bear it, she took the initiative to do her job. Consequently, her boss fired her under the pretext of job abandonment. Her colleagues, instead of helping, berated her for being a divorcee. accusing her of seducing men like a fox. After understanding the details, Yeon-woo reported back to Kang Seok and unexpectedly recognized the photo Kang Seok was looking at. It was the rich kid who had framed him. Kang Seok explained that the young man was Chairman Park's son. He needed Yeon-woo to help stage a play to force Chairman Park to withdraw his lawsuit. They divided the tasks. Kang Seok went to a nightclub to meet the rich kid. Yeon-woo went to meet Chairman Park. Kang Seok threatened the young man. Someone had witnessed him taking drugs and had reported it to the police. If he signed, Kang and Am law firm would personally represent him from now on. Hearing the police outside the hallway, the terrified young man hastily signed. Kang Seok locked the door and then called Yeon-woo, telling Chairman Park that he was now the young man's lawyer. If Chairman Park withdrew the lawsuit, he would defend his son. Otherwise, he would immediately tear up the contract and let the police in. The young man yelled, "Help," over the phone. Chairman Park had to concede and reluctantly withdrew the lawsuit. Excited by their shared victory, Yeon-woo wanted a high five from Kang Seok. Kang Seok arrogantly walked away, ignoring his childish gesture. With Kang Seok's problem resolved, Yeon-woo posted Kim Mis-yu's case online, hoping to let public opinion ferment for a while. During this time, he asked Jae-na to help find a clickbait title to increase views. Kim Mis-yu's daughter wrote him a thank you note. He wanted to help the mother and daughter to deserve that gratitude. Unfortunately, he wasn't a real lawyer yet, so he couldn't do much. Jae-na didn't expect him to have such a sentimental side. Her impression of him changed considerably. Overhearing their conversation, Kang Seok directly forwarded the post to some famous rappers he knew, saying he would get it to the top trending spot that night. Sure enough, the post quickly reached the #1 trending spot. Riding the wave of momentum, Yeon-woo used his skills to search for other employees who, like Kim Mis-yu, had been bullied by the company. Seeing this, Jae-na proactively helped him with the search. Quickly, Yeon-woo found a woman named Baek Young. She had also worked at that company and had been mistreated. Yeon-woo asked her to testify, assuring her that he would help her get compensation for her suffering. Baek Young agreed to testify. Both parties went to the law firm for a direct confrontation. However, before Baek Young could reveal the unfair treatment, the opposing lawyer hastily pointed out that Baek Young had been a hostess in a bar. Kang Seok promptly intervened, arguing that the witness's past was irrelevant to the case. The opposing lawyer then stated that Baek Young had been prosecuted for fraud and embezzlement. With a criminal record, the court wouldn't believe her testimony. Humiliated, Baek Young ran out. Yeon-woo immediately chased after her. But Baek Young, feeling desperate and believing she was too weak to fight the company alone, refused to testify in court. At that point, Yeon-woo couldn't force her. As he took the elevator upstairs, he saw two men enter with him and recognized them as the men who had been loitering outside his apartment. At that moment, he received a text from a friend saying Cheol soon had asked him to deliver something to a hotel, hadn't been heard from since, and was now being repeatedly beaten by a drug lord. Cheol soon knew he worked at Kang and Am and might reveal his information. Just then, the two men recognized Yeon-woo as their target. They followed him out of the elevator. Yeon-woo quickened his pace, trying to escape. At a critical moment, Kang Seok grabbed him. Yeon-woo wrenched himself free and ran to the rooftop. The two men pursued him. Standing at the railing, Yeon-woo offered a compromise. He would take the briefcase to their boss. If they continued to press him, he would jump. They would then become murder suspects. While they were negotiating, Jae-na arrived with security guards and chased the men away. The danger was averted. Yeon-woo owed Kang Seok an explanation. Kang Seok had guessed that Yeon-woo hadn't followed his initial orders to completely destroy the drugs, angrily accusing him of keeping some. If being a lawyer didn't work out, Yeon-woo would sell the hidden drugs for money, he countered. Yeon-woo argued that Kang Seok wasn't sincere with him either, treating him as a disposable pawn. He couldn't trust Kang Seok unconditionally. The trust between them crumbled. Kang Seok gave him a choice. If he wanted to resign, he could leave anytime. After some thought, Yeon-woo removed his employee ID and left the firm. His intuition advised him. His judgment and choices depended on the path he wanted to take. No one could decide for him. Hearing this, Yeon-woo retrieved the box of drugs from his locker and went to meet the drug lord. Kang Seok's informant immediately reported this. Kang Seok then went to find Baek Young. He showed her bank statements, exposing the fact that she had received money from the company's CEO. If he presented this evidence to the court, she would be arrested. Terrified, Baek Young screamed that she was also a victim. Meanwhile, Yeon-woo confronted the drug lord. He poured gasoline over the drugs and lit a lighter, threatening to burn it all unless Cheol-soon was released. The drug lord held a knife to Cheol-soon, forcing Yeon-woo's hand. Just as Yeon-woo hesitated, Kang Seok suddenly appeared and snatched the lighter. He warned the drug lord, kidnapping, threats, and drug trafficking combined carried a sentence of 6 or 7 years, possibly even life imprisonment. Hearing this, the drug lord backed down and allowed them to take Cheol-soon. Kang Seok then told Yeon-woo to burn the drugs and presented a contract, forcing the drug lord to hire him as his lawyer. Otherwise, he would give damaging testimony against him. The drug lord tried to attack, but was immediately subdued. Kang Seok reminded him that the narcotics unit was on its way. As soon as he finished speaking, sirens wailed. The drug lord reluctantly signed the agreement, forced to pay a 30 million won legal fee. Everything was resolved. Kang Seok handed Kim Mis-yu's case file to Yeon-woo. If he appeared in court tomorrow, it meant he agreed to continue as an assistant. The matter was settled. Yeon-woo took Cheol-soon home and gave him a beating, severing all ties with him. The next morning, Yeon-woo arrived at court on time, 5 minutes before the trial began. He informed the CEO and the opposing lawyer that they had Baek Young's statement. She admitted the CEO had tried to bribe her and provided details of the transaction. Yeon-woo declared that threatening and bribing a witness was a criminal offense. Knowing he was in the wrong, the CEO immediately agreed to a settlement. Intuition suggested compensation for emotional distress, totaling 490 million won. As the CEO was about to sign, Yeon-woo made one more demand, a sincere or at least a feigned apology to Kim Mis-yu. The CEO reluctantly apologized and signed the agreement, then slinked away. Kim Min-soo was incredibly grateful to Yeon-woo. In her eyes, Yeon-woo was the true lawyer. Beaming, Yeon-woo jogged after Kang Seok, hoping for a celebratory high five. Kang Seok once again ignored his childish antics, warning him to be at the firm in 30 minutes. 1 minute late, and he was fired. Yeon-woo pedaled furiously to the law office. Kang Seok, watching Yeon-woo's retreating figure from his car, smiled with satisfaction. Kang Seok's nemesis, Attorney Ki, unable to get the better of Kang Seok himself, had shifted his focus to Ganu. He brought up the incident where Yeon-woo had been followed by 2 drug dealers. He used this to coerce Yeon-woo into accompanying him to a club to secure a client, a famous rapper. Yeon-woo explained he was busy and couldn't leave. Attorney Ki delegated Yeon-woo's work to Attorney Yu, insistent on taking him out. Forced to go to the club, Yeon-woo used his exceptional memory to sing the rapper's debut song, impressing him. After a few drinks, the two became fast friends. The rapper pulled Yeon-woo on stage to sing. In his drunken state, Yeon-woo revealed he was a fake lawyer. The next morning, Yeon-woo was jolted awake by his alarm. Realizing he was late, he rushed to the firm, still feeling the effects of the alcohol. Attorney Woo handed him the copyright plan he had written. Confident in his work, Attorney Woo whistled as he gave the plan to Kang Seok. A single glance revealed numerous errors. Kang Seok deduced he had been drinking all night and had delegated the task, only for the other attorney to sabotage him intentionally. He promised to rewrite it. Explaining his own predicament, Attorney Woo's excuses fell on deaf ears. Kang Seok had already helped Yeon-woo with a drug-related issue and wasn't willing to clean up Attorney Ki's mess again. If he kept giving in, not only Attorney Ki but others would take advantage of him. Yeon-woo returned to the office area, met with the smug looks of his colleagues, and resolutely marched into Attorney Ki's office. To his surprise, the rapper was there, discussing a collaboration with Attorney Ki and Representative Kang. Seeing him, the rapper exclaimed, "So the fake lawyer hasn't been fired yet." He immediately rushed over and enthusiastically hugged Yeon-woo, explaining to Representative Kang he was there because of him. A flustered Attorney Ki turned to Yeon-woo, demanding to know what fake lawyer meant. Yeon-woo regained his composure and calmly explained. According to legal regulations, if a lawyer hasn't worked at a law firm or interned for at least 6 months, they can't become a member of the legal association. He was still in his internship period and therefore not yet a fully qualified lawyer. Seeing Yeon-woo skillfully defuse the situation, Attorney Ki, worried he would lose the rapper to Yeon-woo, curtly told him to leave. Just then, Kang Seok handed Yeon-woo a contract, instructing him to deliver it to a client, specifically warning him against unnecessary conversation. Yeon-woo tried to explain the situation with Attorney Ki, but Kang Seok brushed him off and left. The rapper then told Yeon-woo he hadn't signed with Attorney Ki because he came specifically for him. Yeon-woo wanted to introduce the rapper to Kang Seok, but recalling his earlier dismissal, he felt unacknowledged. With mixed emotions, he went to the home of his client, Mrs. B, a woman around his grandmother's age. Remembering Kang Seok's instructions, he planned to deliver the contract and leave immediately. However, Mrs. B insisted he stay, enthusiastically talking about her homemade black bean sauce. Her warmth was infectious, and Yeon-woo opened up about his happy life with his grandmother. Even though they only had each other, they were content. Kang Seok called to check on his progress. Mrs. B remarked that this was the first time Kang Seok had sent someone else and the first time he'd called to check in. It seemed Kang Seok truly saw Yeon-woo as one of his own. This realization struck a chord with Yeon-woo. Upon returning to the firm, Yeon-woo resolved to explain everything to Kang Seok, regardless of how busy he was. Attorney Ki had threatened him with his past, leaving him no choice but to cooperate. He vowed to demonstrate his loyalty to Kang Seok and ask for a chance to prove his abilities. Kang Seok assigned him a significant case, the divorce of Sung Yoo-jin, CEO of Sachu, and Nam Myung-hak. Before the Sachu Aviacio CEO divorce proceedings officially began, mediation was required. To Kang Seok's astonishment, the opposing counsel was his ex-girlfriend, Joo-hee. Seeing Kang Seok after 13 years left Joo-hee momentarily speechless. Kang Seok, reluctant to face his ex in court, called her aside and suggested one of them withdraw from the case. Joo-hee, however, insisted on facing him in court, emphasizing their roles as legal representatives and nothing more. Seeing her resolve, and unable to refuse the case himself, Kang Seok accepted the confrontation. He ordered his team to gather information on the divorcing couple. Rumors and facts about Sung Yoo-jin and Nam Myung-hak were collected and compiled into a narrative. Yeon-woo diligently gathered all relevant information and crafted a fact-based account. As they prepared for court, Representative Kang informed Kang Seok that Mrs. Beek, a major client, had returned the contract, not only withdrawing from incorporating her company, but also threatening to take her business elsewhere. Losing Mrs. B, who ran a large company, would severely impact the firm's performance. They had to prevent her withdrawal at all costs. Kang Seok immediately took Yeon-woo to meet with Mrs. B. He explained that signing the contract meant entrusting her company to expert management, generating 10 billion won annually from contract fees and another 10 billion from branding rights. However, influenced by Yeon-woo's earlier story about his grandmother, Mrs. B expressed a desire to enjoy family life, wanting to divide the company among her children and retire. Kang Seok's attempts to persuade her failed. With the court hearing approaching, he had to leave. On the way, he reviewed Yeon-woo's narrative, which portrayed the marriage of Sung Yoo-jin and Nam Myung-hak as a love story between a celestial being and a mortal. During his research, Yeon-woo had realized the true nature of their marriage. They were still in love. Suddenly, Yeon-woo asked to be let out of the car mid-route, determined to revisit Mrs. B. He instructed Kang Seok to summon all of her children. The divorce hearing commenced. Kang Seok revealed the surprising reason behind the divorce. It had been a marriage of convenience, but they had fallen in love. Sachu was plagued by illegal inheritance issues and fierce internal competition. Nam Myung-hak wanted to protect Sung Yoo-jin and their children from this conflict. Similarly, Sung Yoo-jin, out of love, wanted to free him to pursue his true desires. Unaware of each other's intentions, they had resorted to divorce as a means of saving each other. With the truth revealed, Sung Yoo-jin tearfully left the courtroom, followed by Nam Myung-hak. The divorce case was settled through mediation. Meanwhile, Mrs. B's family had gathered. Her grandchild accidentally knocked over her precious jars of fermented black bean sauce. When she scolded the child, her own children dismissed her concern, showing no appreciation for her hard work and only interested in selling the jars for profit. This callous disregard made her realize her children didn't care about the company she had painstakingly built. Resolute, Mrs. B asked Yeon-woo to bring the contract. She was ready to sign and entrust her company to professional management. Yeon-woo reported his success to Kang Seok. Adding another piece of good news, he had introduced the rapper to Kang Seok, facilitating their collaboration. He proudly declared himself Kang Seok's indispensable partner. Kang Seok, though reminding him that humility was key to progress, couldn't suppress a pleased smile. He rewarded Yeon-woo with a playing card and asked if he needed help teaching Attorney Ki a lesson. Yeon-woo confidently stated he had his own plan. He then visited Attorney Ki's office and played a video of him drunkenly making a spectacle of himself at the nightclub. He warned Attorney Ki that further targeting him would result in the video's release, reminding him of the importance of maintaining a lawyer's image. Humiliated, Attorney Ki backed down. Feeling comfortable, Yeon-woo invited Jae-na out to dinner to thank her for her help. Meanwhile, Kang Seok was catching up with Joo-hee. Years ago, they had worked on a case together. Joo-hee made a serious mistake that led to reprimand from the bar association. To protect her, Kang Seok took all the blame. The bar association warned them that if they wanted to continue practicing law, they had to sever all contact. Feeling guilty, Joo-hee suggested they never see each other again. Kang Seok, prioritizing their futures, reluctantly agreed. Years passed, but they couldn't forget each other. Joo-hee initiated a kiss, and they ended up going home together. However, after their passionate reunion, Joo-hee told Kang Seok that she was getting married and that this would be their last meeting. At the same time, Yeon-woo, while enjoying his dinner with Jae-na, received a call from the police. He rushed to the hospital to find that his friend Sui had overdosed on sleeping pills. The police, checking Sui's phone, noticed she had been trying to contact Yeon-woo, which is why they called him. Concerned, Yeon-woo took Sui to his home after she was discharged. The next day, Representative Kang assigned Kang Seok the Yumi Pharmaceuticals case. 3 patients with muscular atrophy had died after taking Yumi's medication. Soon after, Representative Kim from Yumi arrived at the law office to discuss the situation. He explained that they had conducted clinical trials on 100 people for 3 years, with 85 showing positive results. He claimed the 3 deceased patients were already in critical condition and beyond saving. Among the 5 plaintiffs suing the company were the families of the deceased and other patients with different medical issues. Kang Seok believed the best course of action was to negotiate a direct settlement to prevent the issue from escalating. Representative Kim disagreed. As both a representative and a doctor, he felt a settlement would be an admission of guilt. Kang Seok took Yeon-woo to meet the plaintiff's lawyer. The opposing lawyer made an exorbitant demand of 20 billion won per plaintiff. Furious, Kang Seok accused the lawyer of being unreasonable, stating he'd rather go to court than settle. The opposing lawyer then presented a news article alleging that Yumi Pharmaceuticals had caused 3 deaths, with the number potentially rising to hundreds. He threatened that publishing the article would cause Yumi's stock price to plummet. Kang Seok ignored the lawyer's tactics and left. Yeon-woo uncovered new information on one of the plaintiffs. This individual, suffering from Alzheimer's and experiencing side effects from the medication, was also suing other pharmaceutical companies. Kang Seok suspected this person frequently used such tactics to file lawsuits. He suggested filing a motion to dismiss. However, the opposing lawyer also provided the presiding judge with crucial information. Yumi Pharmaceuticals was near bankruptcy 2 years before releasing the new drug. Financial reports supported this claim, yet the company's stock price soared after the drug's release, raising suspicions of fraudulent clinical trials solely for profit. With both sides relying on speculation and lacking concrete evidence, the judge decided to proceed with the trial. Caught off guard by the opposing lawyer's tactics, Kang Seok suspected Yumi was hiding something. Upon returning to the office, he pressed Representative Kim and his legal team, finally uncovering the truth. Representative Kim himself suffered from muscular atrophy and had used himself as a test subject. After taking the new drug, his health dramatically improved. However, near the end of the clinical trials, one patient's records posed a problem that threatened the drug's approval. To prevent Representative Kim's efforts from being wasted, the company lawyer had removed the patient from the trial data. Knowing the truth, Kang Seok gathered the plaintiffs and Representative Kim. He revealed Representative Kim's condition and explained that settling for the demanded amount would bankrupt Yumi, halting further research and depriving other patients of hope. Representative Kim pledged a portion of his company shares for compensation and vowed to continue researching muscular atrophy. The 5 plaintiffs agreed to Kang Seok's proposal, and the case was finally resolved. He approached Kang Seok provocatively, handed him a business card, and introduced himself as a lawyer educated in the S, implying his skills were beyond question. Kang Seok, unimpressed, tore up the card, showing no interest in who he was. Undeterred, David brought up the oxy-chemical case. Residents near the chemical plant had chosen Lee Zin to represent them in a lawsuit regarding safety concerns, demanding the plant's relocation. Recent pollution from oxy-chemical had resulted in fatalities, and Representative Kang's firm was handling the class action lawsuit. David, hired by oxy-chemical, boasted confidently about his inevitable victory. Seeing Kang Seok's continued indifference, he revealed their past connection. Years ago, they were supposed to participate in a mock trial together at Harvard law firm. A day before the trial, David was involved in a traffic accident, forcing him to withdraw. He attributed Kang Seok's impressive performance in the mock trial to his own absence. Now, facing off again, he was determined to show Kang Seok his true capabilities. Provoked, Kang Seok accepted the oxy-chemical case, eager to prove his real strength. After some investigation, Kang Seok's team obtained a recording of a phone call between a pharmaceutical representative and David. Kang Seok refused to accept the evidence, citing its unclear origin. He wouldn't submit illegally obtained evidence in court. However, acknowledging the informant's efforts, he still paid them for their trouble. While Kang Seok's investigation was progressing slowly, David made the first move. He first had someone attack Linux. Then, in front of the plaintiffs, he handed out his business cards and announced that oxy-chemical would offer a one-time settlement of 10 million won per victim. Those who accepted were to contact him. Otherwise, the lawsuit would continue, a process that could take years. He emphasized that oxy-chemical had the resources for a protracted legal battle. Infuriated by these underhanded tactics, Kang Seok, upon returning to the office, obtained the recording from his informant. Recognizing that settlement was the best outcome in cases against large corporations, Kang Seok used the recording as leverage, forcing David to sign a settlement agreement. He threatened to report David for ethical violations and use unconventional methods in court to expose the recording, potentially landing him in jail. The recording revealed that, to pressure Jin Suk into conceding, the oxy-chemical representative had instructed David to use illegal means to harm Jin Suk's daughter. If the recording went public, David would face not only legal repercussions but also the end of his career. Weighing the consequences, David signed the agreement drafted by Kang Seok's team. The next day at work, Yeon Woo and Kang Seok encountered a prosecutor outside their building. During their conversation, Yeon Woo was surprised to learn that Kang Seok had been a prosecutor under the same prosecutor before becoming a lawyer. Curious, Yeon Woo asked Jae-na to look into Kang Seok's background. Despite finding no mention of his prosecutor past in the firm's records, Jae-na discovered detailed information about him in the judicial database. Yeon Woo asked her to send him screenshots. In his eagerness, he even reached out to operate the computer himself, inadvertently holding Jae-na's hand in the process. Both felt a moment of awkwardness after realizing the contact. Later, Yeon Woo questioned Secretary Hong about Kang Seok's hidden past, noting his unease when meeting Prosecutor Woo. Secretary Hong's expression turned serious at the mention of Prosecutor Woo's name. Clearly, she knew something but sternly warned Yeon Woo against prying into Kang Seok's personal affairs. Soon, Kang Seok took on a new case. Nam Young Accounting, a partner of the law firm, intended to fire their senior executive, Kang A-young, for falsifying her credentials. This resonated with Yeon Woo, who also lacked proper certification but had been hired by Kang Seok. He worried about facing the same fate if his secret was exposed. Sensing Yeon Woo's anxiety, Kang Seok assured him that wouldn't happen. Still uneasy, Yeon Woo was about to press further when Representative Kang entered, interrupting their conversation. Afterward, Yeon Woo organized the documents and proactively sought out Kang A-young to understand the situation. Kang A-young was full of resentment. He had worked diligently for the company for 15 years, dedicating himself completely and tirelessly. Yet, the company discarded him like a useless piece of paper, easily dismissing him. Yeon Woo understood Kang A-young's feelings, but also pointed out that even with justifiable frustration, falsifying credentials wasn't acceptable. Returning to the firm, Yeon-woo reported Kang A-young's situation to Kang Seok, emphasizing that it wasn't simply a case of a forged diploma. Kang Seok, however, reprimanded him for meddling, insisting he should only follow orders and not investigate matters beyond his purview. Yeon-woo argued his point. The situation affected not just Kang A-young but also his family, requiring careful consideration. Kang Seok countered that Yeon-woo saw himself in Kang A-young, warning him not to let personal feelings interfere with his work. He then demanded Yeon-woo submit the documents and summon Kang A-young to the office so he could handle the matter personally. Kang Seok agreed to meet with Prosecutor Woo. A complicated history existed between them. Kang Seok had previously worked at the prosecutor's office under Prosecutor Ju, who had taken him under his wing. However, an incident occurred that led Kang Seok to decisively break ties with Prosecutor Ju and leave the prosecutor's office. Now, Prosecutor Ju was under special investigation. He hoped Kang Seok would remain on his side and not betray him. Kang Seok stated his position. He wouldn't actively testify against Prosecutor Ju, but if forced to confront him in court, he wouldn't perjure himself on Ju's behalf. Early the next morning, Yeon-woo rushed to the personnel department of Nam-young accounting firm to look up Kang A-young's information. The staff refused to disclose employee information. Yeon-woo identified himself as being from Kang Law Firm, falsely claiming he needed the information to handle a case Nam-young had entrusted to them. Seeing their continued skepticism, he pretended to call Representative Sim. After this charade, Yeon-woo successfully obtained the documents he needed. While waiting, he noticed a notice on the wall, learning that Manager Choi had been fired for embezzlement and abuse of power. Secretary Hong delivered a summons from the Special Investigations Unit to Kang Seok and asked how he planned to respond, reminding him of the circumstances surrounding his departure from the prosecutor's office. She emphasized their collaboration was predicated on Kang Seok's ultimate refusal to collude with Prosecutor Ju. At that moment, Yeon-woo burst in, interrupting their conversation. Before handing over Kang A-young's personal information to Kang Seok, he revealed what he knew about the relationship between Kang Seok and Prosecutor Ju. He informed Kang Seok that Prosecutor Ju was under investigation by the Special Investigations Unit for suspected destruction of evidence. If this involved Kang Seok, he too could be implicated. Yeon-woo then placed documents regarding a desertion case in front of Kang Seok. He'd investigated and discovered this was the last case Kang Seok handled as a prosecutor, ultimately dismissed due to lack of evidence. Yeon-woo speculated Prosecutor Ju had initially sought out Kang Seok to exploit him, and Kang Seok's ethically questionable entry into the law firm likely stemmed from a similar intention to exploit Ju. Before they could finish their conversation, Secretary Hong entered, announcing Kang A-young's arrival in the conference room. Kang Seok warned Yeon-woo not to speak out of turn in front of Kang A-young. Kang Seok slid the severance agreement across the table to Kang A-young, urging him to sign it and quietly leave the company. Kang A-young adamantly refused, denying the use of a forged diploma. Yeon-woo stepped forward to vouch for Kang A-young's honesty. He pointed out that when Kang A-young was promoted to senior manager, the company had investigated his background. Representative Sim had known for 7 years that Kang A-young had dropped out of college. The reason for the accusation of falsified credentials now was because last month, Kang A-young's direct subordinate, Manager Choi, had been fired. Manager Choi had previously told Kang A-young that in addition to the company's regular revenue, there seemed to be under-the-table income from shell companies. However, Representative Sim had told Kang A-young that the shell companies had nothing to do with them, and that Manager Choi was fired for embezzlement. Hearing this, Kang A-young realized the truth: the shell companies were real. Representative Sim, fearing he would expose the secret, used the forged diploma as a pretext to fire him. Furious, Kang A-young gathered his belongings, preparing to leave and threatening to sue the company. Yeon-woo urged him to calm down, explaining that having worked at the company for 15 years managing tax documents, Kang A-young could face legal repercussions if the company deliberately found errors in his tax management. The best course of action was to sign the severance agreement first, and then, after finding evidence of Representative Sim's illicit income, launch a strong counterattack. Weighing the pros and cons, Kang A-young finally signed. Yeon-woo delivered the agreement to Kang Seok. Unable to secure justice for Kang A-young, he felt defeated and increasingly suspicious of Kang Seok. He revealed the secret between Kang Seok and Prosecutor Ju. In Kang Seok's last trial 10 years prior, he had submitted evidence to the judge, but the video evidence had been destroyed and couldn't be played. Kang Seok then recalled Prosecutor Ju's parting words after they had drinks the night before the trial. In court, just trust yourself. At the time, Kang Seok hadn't understood the meaning, but now he realized Prosecutor Ju had secretly destroyed the evidence. Disgusted by Ju's actions and unable to accept his own mistake, Kang Seok had left the prosecutor's office in a fit of rage. Kang Seok asked Yeon-woo about his perspective on justice. Yeon-woo believed justice meant giving everyone what they deserved, past or present. If a wrong decision was made, the consequences must be borne. Kang Seok understood Yeon-woo was investigating Representative Sim's wrongdoing and trying to get justice for Kang A-young. He told Yeon-woo that if Nam-young's secrets were exposed, it would directly endanger the law firm. Therefore, he supported Yeon-woo's actions but stressed absolute secrecy until they had concrete results. Neither Nam-young nor the law firm could know about Yeon-woo's investigation beforehand. With this support, Yeon-woo felt relieved. He then shifted his focus to how Kang Seok would handle the situation with Prosecutor Ju. Representative Kang suggested Kang Seok testify against Prosecutor Ju's illegal activities. Prosecutor Ju had once helped Kang Seok considerably. Back then, Kang Seok had questioned Prosecutor Ju about destroying evidence and letting the hit-and-run driver escape. He suspected it was a shortcut to promotion, as the driver was connected to a National Assembly member. Prosecutor Ju had seriously explained that by turning a blind eye just once, he could rise to a position where he wouldn't need to answer to anyone, allowing him to catch the real criminals and achieve true justice. Based on these past events, Kang Seok had held on to hope for years, believing Prosecutor Ju's actions were meant to gain power to punish the truly wicked. Therefore, having to expose Ju personally was incredibly painful for him. Meanwhile, Lawyer Ki happened to see Yeon-woo reviewing the financial records of both Nam-young and the law firm and questioned his motives. Yeon-woo quickly lied, claiming he was studying and explaining the specialization trend in law firms, adding that he was merely memorizing figures. Lawyer Ki didn't believe him and contacted Representative Sim directly, asking if he was aware of Yeon-woo's examination of the books. Upon learning of this, Representative Sim immediately went to the law firm to report Yeon-woo's investigation of a client to Representative Kang and demand his dismissal. Representative Kang informed Kang Seok that he had to immediately dismiss Yeon-woo from the law firm for violating regulations. Kang Seok brought Yeon-woo to meet with Representative Kang. Yeon-woo presented the documents he had found to Representative Kang. The documents revealed a scheme involving shell corporations overseas being used to defraud clients. Over 5 years, a total of 5.7 billion won had been embezzled, with the law firm suffering the heaviest losses. Representative Kang was utterly shocked. Thanks to Yeon-woo's investigation, they had discovered the problem early. Attorney Ki, believing himself clever, had inadvertently implicated himself and was left with no choice but to begrudgingly accompany Yeon-woo on a tax audit. Although Yeon-woo had made a significant contribution and avoided being fired, his investigation of a client was a serious breach. Representative Kang informed Yeon-woo he would be temporarily suspended, pending further instructions before he could return to work. Meanwhile, Kang Seok was still struggling with the decision of whether to testify against Prosecutor Yu for destroying evidence. Secretary Hong, unable to bear witness to his distress, handed over some evidence to Representative Kang. It turned out Secretary Hong had previously worked at the prosecutor's office and had witnessed Prosecutor Ju falsifying evidence for a trial. She knew Prosecutor Ju's actions would eventually be exposed, so she had secretly recorded the time and method of the evidence destruction. She didn't want to force Kang Seok to admit that Prosecutor Yu was a bad person. She hoped Representative Kang could use this evidence to free Kang Seok from the ethical dilemma posed by Prosecutor Ju. Representative Kang took the evidence and met with Prosecutor Ju, demanding he confess his crimes to the Special Prosecutor's Office, write a confession, and never appear before Kang Seok again. Otherwise, the evidence would ruin his career and reputation. Prosecutor Ju was forced to comply, confessed his wrongdoing, and resigned from the prosecutor's office. Unaware of these events, Kang Seok believed Prosecutor Ju had a change of heart and felt relieved by his choice, glad that the matter was finally resolved. Afterward, Kang Seok personally met with Ganu, informing him that his suspension was over. Together, they faced Representative Sim, who had come for a visit. Yeon-woo meticulously detailed the Shell Corporation scheme, forcing Representative Sim to admit his wrongdoing. Representative Sim countered that Yeon-woo, being a mere intern, had no right to criticize him. Representative Kang defended Yeon-woo, asserting he was an official lawyer of the firm. Representative Sim continued to deny the accusations, demanding proof. Yeon-woo opened the door and invited Kang A-young, who had been waiting outside, to enter. Kang A-young, like Yeon-woo, possessed a brilliant mind, particularly sharp with numbers. She had uncovered startling discrepancies in Nam-young's financial reports, leaving Representative Sim with no escape. Representative Kang kindly advised Representative Sim to confess everything, lest he spend the next 5 years in prison. Representative Sim's face paled, and he accepted defeat. Kang A-young was deeply grateful for Yeon-woo's help and held this kindness close to her heart. Later, Yeon-woo visited Kang Seok's home and gave him a stack of documents related to the murder of university student Kim Min-soo 12 years prior. This was Kang Seok's first case as a prosecutor. On the surface, the case seemed straightforward. But while searching for the prosecutor's evidence, Yeon-woo discovered a love letter from Kim Min-soo to Jang Subin. At the time, Jang Subin claimed he and Kim Min-soo were lovers, but no evidence of their relationship could be found. As a result, Jang Seok-hyun was deemed a liar and convicted as the mastermind. Now, this love letter proved Jang Seok-hyun hadn't lied. Prosecutor who had hidden the letter, deliberately misleading the entire case. Yeon-woo told Kang Seok that Jang Seok-hyun had been sentenced to 15 years in prison and had 3 years remaining on his sentence. Kang Seok decided to confront his mistake and request a retrial for Jang Seok-hyun. He would act as his defense attorney. Representative Kang vehemently disagreed. If Jang Seok-hyun were acquitted after a retrial, not only would Kang Seok's reputation suffer, but the entire law firm would be implicated. However, Kang Seok was resolute. Even if it meant giving up his senior partner position, he would clear Jang Seok-hyun's name and reclaim his conscience and sense of justice. Attorney Key and the other lawyers pressured Representative Kang. If Kang Seok requested a retrial, they argued, it would damage their relationship with the prosecutor's office, severely impacting the firm. After weighing the pros and cons, everyone except Kang Seok opposed the retrial. Representative Kang stated that internal division was more dangerous than external pressure. She reminded Attorney Key that she was the head of the firm and no one else could make decisions for her. Discouraged, Attorney Key backed down. Kang Seok then delivered Kim Min-soo's love letter to Jang Seok-hyun. He confessed that evidence had been destroyed 12 years ago, leading to his wrongful judgment. He now wanted to request a retrial to clear Jang Seok-hyun's name. Jang Seok-hyun reacted with fury. 12 years in prison had taken a devastating toll on his body and mind. A simple apology couldn't make up for that. He didn't care about a retrial. Upon his release in 3 years, he intended to seek revenge on Han Sung-tae and Kim Jin-kyu, the witnesses who testified against him, and Kang Seok, the judge who wrongly convicted him. Kang Seok relayed Jang Seok-hyun's reaction to Yeon-woo. It was urgent to change his mind and prevent him from committing further wrongdoings after his release. At that moment, Kang Seok received a phone call. He and Yeon-woo left to handle another case. Professor Lee Jun-kyu's son had celebrated his 20th birthday at a club the previous night. Driving home, he felt something hit his car. It was too dark to be certain whether he had hit a person. Unfortunately, the dashcam footage hadn't been uploaded yet, and he feared he had indeed injured someone. Yeon-woo investigated traffic reports and quickly received news. The injured party was a 24-year-old international student who had been taken to the hospital by ambulance the previous night. Doctors diagnosed the student with a fractured upper rib and symptoms of cerebral hemorrhage. Currently in stable condition, Jun-kyu claimed he had reported the incident to the police. He hadn't drunk alcohol at the party and, feeling he had hit something, immediately contacted the authorities. Frightened, he had returned home without remaining at the scene. Kang Seok negotiated with the police, and the incident was classified as an accident. Jun-kyu was deemed innocent. Shortly after, Kang Seok received news that Jun-kyu had been detained for investigation. They met with the prosecutor in charge of Jun-kyu's case. The prosecutor informed them, the international student passed away suddenly this morning due to a cerebral hemorrhage. The case is no longer an accident but a hit and run. Yeon-woo went to the scene to search for clues. He noticed graffiti on 2 nearby walls, including a signature on one piece that matched a signature found at the victim's home. He reported his findings to Kang Seok. The international student was a graffiti artist. Everyone knew graffiti was illegal. To avoid detection, graffiti artists often worked at night. Surveillance footage showed the student dressed in black that night for a quick escape if discovered. He chose a spot close to the road to paint. This meant someone appeared while he was working, causing him to flee in a panic, leading to the collision. Kang Seok instructed Yeon-woo to meet with the student's family to seek a settlement. The funeral was still ongoing, presenting the best opportunity for reconciliation. Delaying would allow grief to turn into anger, making agreement more difficult. Yeon-woo understood his task was to keep Jun Kyu out of jail, but he felt this so-called golden opportunity was like rubbing salt in the family's wounds. That year, Yeon-woo's parents also died in a car accident. On the day of the funeral, a lawyer in a suit and leather shoes came to see his grandmother to discuss a settlement, showing no sympathy for their grief. For the first time, he felt the standard attire of successful people was glaring, and it was also the first time he had the intense desire to become a lawyer with compassion. Kang Seok, looking at Yeon-woo's sneakers, suddenly understood why he never wore dress shoes. Kang Seok arranged for Yeon-woo to negotiate a settlement with the international student's family and announced the maximum compensation of 500 million won. Yeon-woo felt deeply conflicted. He felt that his actions at this moment were no different from the lawyer who negotiated the settlement with his grandmother years ago, so he confided his distress to Jae-na. Jae-na patiently counseled him, explaining that while the procedure might be similar, his heart was with the victim's family. This was fundamentally different from the other lawyer. Following Jae-na's advice, Yeon-woo was able to resolve his inner turmoil and went to the international student's family home. The victim's family was already aware of the details of the case. They agreed to the settlement with apprehension. They requested 50 million won in compensation. Yeon-woo, knowing they were foreign workers from a poor family, proactively increased the compensation to 500 million won. Yeon-woo then sought out Jun Kyu to sign the settlement agreement. This was the final procedure. After signing, the accident case would be completely closed. He hoped Jun Kyu would live more responsibly in the future. However, Jun Kyu felt lost about his future. He revealed he suffered from depression and couldn't function normally without medication. Yeon-woo, with his sharp intuition, questioned whether Jun Kyu had taken his medication on the day of the accident. Jun Kyu admitted to taking some that day, but not enough to be considered driving under the influence. He thought it wasn't a problem. Seeing that Yeon-woo and Kang Seok didn't ask, he didn't mention it. Yeon-woo was filled with regret, realizing he almost made a grave mistake. He told Kang Seok about this, hoping to rectify the error. Referring back to the previously determined cause of the accident, Kang Seok seriously pointed out their obligation to maintain client confidentiality. He had already proactively increased the compensation to 500 million won, and the victim's family had accepted the settlement. There was no need to cause further complications. But Yeon-woo refused to give up so easily. He insisted that since he started the case, he should also be the one to finish it. He went to the prosecutor in charge of the case and explained that Jun Kyu had been driving under the influence of medication, hoping the case could be re-examined. Prosecutor Kim only wanted to secure a position at Kang and Ham law firm. To curry favor with her future boss, she showed bias towards Jun Kyu. Under her influence, the judge sentenced Jun Kyu to 1 year in prison with 2 years of probation. Yeon-woo angrily criticized prosecutor Kim's selfishness, emphasizing that the cause of the accident was Jun Kyu's impaired state. They had a responsibility to tell the victim's family the truth. However, prosecutor Kim ignored his criticism, insisting she had done nothing wrong. Kang Seok was also stern with Yeon-woo, pointing out that re-investigating Jun Kyu violated the lawyer's oath of confidentiality. If the client sued him, not only would the law firm be implicated, but the police and the prosecution would also investigate him. Kang Seok warned Yeon-woo that if he continued to cross the line for his so-called sense of justice, he would consider firing him. Yeon-woo reluctantly compromised, but he still went to find Jun Kyu to explain the situation. Even though everything seemed to be over, Jun Kyu still hadn't taken responsibility for his actions. If he didn't want to live with guilt for the rest of his life, it would be best to correct his mistake as soon as possible. After careful consideration and unable to bear the torment of his conscience, Jun Kaiyu voluntarily went to the police station and confessed the truth. The real cause of the accident was his medication use. After everything was resolved, Yon Wu met with Jang Seok-hyeon alone. He advised Jang Seok-hyeon to accept a retrial. Years ago, Jang Seok-hyeon had a history of drug use. Kim Min-soo had accepted him despite his troubled past. She still made future plans with him. Even if it was just for Kim Min-soo's sake, he should cherish his life and live well. Jang Seok-hyeon was persuaded and finally agreed to a retrial. Yon Wu obtained testimonies from the two witnesses from that time, Han Sung-tae and Kim Jin Kaiyu. They claimed to have witnessed Jang Seok-hyeon fleeing Kim Min-soo's house. But Jang Seok-hyeon's account was the complete opposite. He claimed to have seen Han Sung-tae and Kim Jin Kaiyu running out of Kim Min-soo's house, after which he discovered Kim Min-soo had been murdered. The two testimonies were completely contradictory, and Jang Seok-hyeon had a history of drug use. Han Sung-tae and Kim Jin Kaiyu were childhood friends of Kim Min-soo, making it difficult to believe Jang Seok-hyeon's testimony. Han Sung-tae's father was a ruling party assemblyman and a former judge. Kang Seok analyzed that, being from wealthy families, it was highly likely they also used drugs with Jang Seok-hyeon. In the initial autopsy, no drugs were found in Kim Min-soo's system. However, there was DNA on the drug bag. Upon testing, it wasn't Kim Min-soo's or Jang Seok-hyeon's, but a third person's. And 5 years after the incident, Han Sung-tae was arrested by the police for drug-related issues. Yon Wu deduced that the police and prosecutors had colluded with Han Sung-tae to stage a scenario, aiming to frame Jang Seok-hyeon for the crime. Kang Seok submitted the documents for the retrial. The prosecutor in charge of defending the original verdict was an old acquaintance of Kang Seok. He mocked Kang Seok as a traitor, betraying his teacher and superiors. News of Kang Seok submitting evidence against prosecutor Yu spread throughout the prosecutor's office. Now, Kang Seok had become a pariah, ostracized by everyone in the legal community. The only person who held the unverified evidence was Secretary Hong, his former colleague. Kang Seok returned to the law firm to ask Secretary Hong what had happened. Secretary Hong and the new representative of Kang and Ham revealed the truth. They had used the evidence to coerce a confession from the prosecutor. The next day, Jang Seok-hyeon's retrial began. The opposing prosecutor falsely accused Jang Seok-hyeon of holding Kim Min-soo captive and even forcing her to take drugs. The judge disregarded Kang Seok's defense, siding completely with the prosecutor. He requested both sides discuss a settlement and hinted at the possibility of canceling the retrial. However, Kang Seok refused to accept the cancellation of the retrial. Jang Seok-hyeon's case was brought back to court. The witnesses from that time, Han Sung-tae and Kim Jin Kaiyu, also testified again. Han Sung-tae lied, claiming Kim Min-soo had asked to break up with him. Jang Seok-hyeon, upon hearing this, supposedly stalked and threatened her. They were worried about Kim Min-soo's safety, so he went to check on her and supposedly witnessed Jang Seok-hyeon murdering her. Faced with Han Sung-tae's lies, Kang Seok presented his strongest evidence to counterattack. He asked Han Sung-tae if he dared to take a DNA test to prove the secretions on the drug bag weren't his. Han Sung-tae and Kim Jin Kaiyu were clearly nervous. The opposing prosecutor immediately interrupted Kang Seok's questioning, suggesting the report on the secretions on the drug bag could be forged or contaminated. Ultimately, the judge ruled that the DNA could not be accepted as evidence. This avenue was blocked. Kang Seok decided to use a roundabout tactic. He deliberately used the opposing counsel's name to summon Han Sung-tae and Jin Kaiyu to a meeting, intentionally provoking their relationship and causing their trust in each other to crumble. After Han Sung-tae and Jin Kaiyu left, Kang Seok collected DNA from their used glasses to send for comparison. Representative Kang used a soft power approach, persuading Lawyer Key to have his younger brother, who worked at a forensic center, conduct a test and issue a report. Kang Seok then presented the DNA test results to the opposing prosecutor. The results showed that the secretions on the medicine bag perfectly matched Han Sung-tae's DNA. The opposing prosecutor accused him of illegally collecting the witness's DNA and stated that the test report was inadmissible as evidence. He mocked Kang Seok, saying that if Han Sung-tae truly was the murderer, Then Kang Seok was the one who wrongly imprisoned Jang Seok Hyun 12 years ago. He claimed that unless Han Sung-T confessed, he couldn't be convicted of murder. Kang Seok resorted to a final measure. He deliberately sent Han Sung-T photos of Kim Jin-kyu meeting privately with someone else. Enraged, Han Sung-T grabbed Kim Jin-kyu by the hair and threatened to kill him if he spoke out of turn. A terrified Kim Jin-kyu stumbled out of the nightclub, just as Kang Seok and Yeon-woo arrived. Kang Seok seized the opportunity to intimidate Kim Jin-kyu. Even if Han Sung-T didn't act violently today, there was no guarantee he wouldn't in the future. If Kim Jin-kyu confessed, he could get a sentence of less than 5 years for concealing a crime. Finally, Kim Jin-kyu broke down and admitted that Han Sung-T had killed Kim Min-soo. He had witnessed the entire event. As they fled, they encountered Jang Seok Hyun in the hallway. To escape punishment, Han Sung-T shifted the blame onto Jang Seok Hyun. With Kim Jin-kyu's testimony, Han Sung-T was arrested, and Jang Seok Hyun was released and exonerated. Kang Seok and Yeon-woo apologized to Jang Seok Hyun and helped him start a new life. The case was successfully closed, but Kang Seok received a call from prosecutor Kim, demanding that he fulfill their agreement to hire her at his law firm. If he didn't, she would reveal Yeon-woo's true identity. Just then, Representative Kang and Secretary Hong rushed in, panicked, telling Kang Seok that Representative Ham was planning to return. Representative Ham was a former partner at Kang & Am. Years ago, he had not only embezzled funds and had an affair, but also plotted against Representative Kang. Eventually, his misdeeds were exposed, and he was fired. Now, with Representative Ham's wife deceased, there was no one to restrain him. Representative Kang worried that Representative Ham would stop at nothing to rejoin the company. After learning this, Kang Seok negotiated terms with Representative Kang. He had a way to prevent Representative Ham's return on the condition that Representative Kang agree to hire prosecutor Kim. After consideration, they reached an agreement. Kang Seok approached Representative Ham, warning him that if he didn't want his daughter to know his shameful true colors, he should abandon his plans to return. Otherwise, his decades of deceiving his wife and children and having affairs with other women would be exposed. He asked how his daughter would view him then. Struck where it hurt, Representative Ham was left speechless. After Kang Seok left, he received a call from Representative Kang. He informed him that Representative Ham wouldn't be returning to work and demanded Representative Kang fulfill his promise. Prosecutor Kim's appointment was finalized. Kang Seok and Prosecutor Kim went to a bar for drinks. Kang Seok, with a sharp gaze, asked Prosecutor Kim how she knew Yeon-woo's identity. Prosecutor Kim replied calmly, "Initially, I was just curious about who Kang Seok personally chose, so I used all my resources to investigate." Kang Seok looked at her threateningly. From that day forward, if she mentioned Yeon-woo to anyone, everything she desired and possessed would vanish. Kang Seok produced a document detailing Prosecutor Kim's younger brother, currently serving in the military. He had caused a violent incident. Kang Seok stated bluntly that they both held each other's weaknesses. Now, it was a cooperative relationship. Prosecutor Kim's arrogance vanished, and she promised to keep silent. With Prosecutor Kim's issue resolved, Yeon-woo had the opportunity to handle a case independently. He wore new leather shoes to work that day, determined to become the competent lawyer the firm needed. Kang Seok assigned him a plagiarism lawsuit involving a novel. Their client was a publishing house, and the objective was simple: win the case. Yeon-woo met with the plaintiff, Young-in. He informed her that there was no concrete evidence of plagiarism or copying. Furthermore, there was a contract Lee Young-in had signed with the publisher, stating all rights belonged to the publisher. He then analyzed the pros and cons, frankly discussing the power imbalance, and advised Lee Young-in to withdraw the lawsuit. After concluding his business, Yeon-woo rose to leave. However, hearing Lee Young-in's hesitant tone, he felt a pang of sympathy. Unable to leave her, he sat back down, patiently listening as she poured out her troubles. Lee Young-in explained that 2 years prior, she had presented her novel idea to the publisher. At the time, the publisher had offered her a contract. She still had the email with the manuscript as proof. Back then, she thought her life would change for the better. Unexpectedly, that decision became an indelible scar. Returning to the law firm, Yeon-woo asked Jae-na to help him research copyright infringement. As Jae-na worked, Yeon-woo watched her, a satisfied smile unconsciously spreading across his face. Jai Na's unique insights into the case startled Yeon-woo. He immediately went to the publishing house and confronted his client, unflinchingly exposing their wrongdoing. The client had taken Lee Young-in's idea and given it to other authors. The publishing house had to compensate Lee Young-in adequately. The client reminded Yeon-woo of his position, that he was representing the publisher. Yeon-woo explained he was acting to protect the publisher's reputation. Prolonging the issue would only diminish their value. After much effort, Yeon-woo successfully secured a 50 million won settlement for Lee Young-in. He brought the settlement agreement to Lee Young-in for her signature. Unexpectedly, she not only refused to sign but angrily declared she didn't need the money. She emotionally exclaimed that they didn't understand what had truly been taken from her. Reluctantly, Yeon-woo reported Lee Young-in's reaction to Kang Seok. Kang Seok seriously reminded Yeon-woo to be mindful of his role, hoping he wouldn't be swayed by his past and could maintain his objectivity, becoming a truly excellent lawyer. Hearing these words, Yeon-woo recalled Lee Young-in saying that signing the contract with the publisher had become a permanent scar. He suspected she was hiding something. He quickly sought out Jai Nam, urgently asking for her help in uncovering Lee Young-in's secret. Under Jai Na's patient questioning, Lee Young-in finally opened up. She painfully recalled being sexually assaulted by the publisher's representative on the day she signed the contract. Text messages from the representative afterward could serve as evidence. Initially, she hadn't intended to report the rape. But the representative not only showed no remorse but also discarded her debut novel. This was something she couldn't bear. On the way back, Jai Na couldn't stop praising Yeon-woo's kindness and sense of justice. She exclaimed that no other lawyer would have listened to the victim's circumstances, and Lee Chong-in's suffering would have remained buried forever. While they were talking, Jai Na found herself captivated by Yeon-woo's aura. Overcome by the moment, she kissed him. Yeon-woo didn't hesitate to return the kiss. Later, Yeon-woo recounted the injustices Lee Young-in had suffered at the hands of Kang Seok's client. As a lawyer, once he knew the truth about the wrongdoing, he couldn't simply ignore it. He said he would make a proposal to his client, hoping they wouldn't repeat the offense. Kang Seok pointed out that his actions constituted betraying his client, but he also expressed his support for Yeon-woo's decision and demanded that he handle the matter perfectly, without causing any negative repercussions for himself or the firm. So, Yeon-woo asked Jai Na to pose as Young-in's lawyer. The two worked together seamlessly, playing good cop bad cop, ultimately forcing the client to admit to plagiarism and idea theft, and formally apologize to Lee Chong-in. Lee Young-in finally received the justice she sought and agreed to withdraw the lawsuit after receiving compensation. The matter was resolved perfectly. Yeon-woo triumphantly presented the settlement agreement to Kang Seok, proudly declaring that the first case he handled independently had concluded flawlessly. Kang Seok couldn't resist criticizing him. He had negotiated the highest possible settlement amount and hadn't even dared to charge the client legal fees. This time, it was practically pro bono work. After his critique, Kang Seok gifted Yeon-woo a watch, telling him to wear it and not embarrass him. Yeon-woo was overjoyed to receive the reward. Kang Seok also revealed a smile, clearly acknowledging Yeon-woo's achievement. He then gave Yeon-woo another playing card, this time the 10 of clubs. This showed his satisfaction with Yeon-woo's performance. However, in the midst of this cheerful atmosphere, the panicked secretary rushed in with urgent news. It turned out that Representative Ham, despite Kang Seok's threats, had appeared at the firm as a representative. Representative Ham repented his past mistakes in front of the staff, vowing to atone for his past transgressions and continue working diligently for Kang Seok. Kang Seok quietly instructed Yeon-woo that upon returning to the office, he must absolutely avoid being seen by Representative Ham. After Representative Ham's seemingly sincere display, a suspicious Yeon-woo questioned Kang Seok about the need to hide. Kang Seok seriously explained that he was the one who had proposed kicking Representative Ham out of the firm. Now that Representative Ham had returned, he was clearly harboring vengeful intentions, and Yeon-woo, as Kang Seok's closest confidant, could very well become the only weak point for Representative Ham to exploit. But they didn't anticipate that lawyer Key, playing the odds in the firm's power struggle, had proactively fed detailed information about Yeon-woo to Representative Ham. Meanwhile, a nurses' strike broke out at the nursing home where Yeonwoo's grandmother resided. The nursing home entrusted the law firm to handle the situation. Kang Seok took Yeonwoo to meet the head nurse, proposing a 10% raise for the nurses and strict adherence to rest periods. The head nurse countered with a demand for increased nursing staff. If the nursing home didn't agree to this point, they would cease work entirely. Negotiations failed. Kang Seok, feeling pressured, decided to file for a temporary restraining order, attempting to find the opponent's weakness through legal means and launch a strong counterattack. Kang Seok submitted the application to the judge. The judge reviewed the restraining order and deemed the nurses' strike legally conducted, with no evidence suggesting the strike caused actual damage to the hospital. Therefore, the request for a temporary injunction was denied. Kang Seok felt something was amiss. While the dismissal had some legal basis, the judge's demeanor and attitude while delivering the verdict seemed pointedly retaliatory. Immediately afterward, the law firm held a general meeting. Representative Ham, feigning deference, stated that Kang Seok was still in charge and that he and the staff would follow his lead. However, the moment Kang Seok mentioned the nursing home case, he declared he would resolve it within 2 days. Kang Seok instantly understood. Representative Ham had interfered, deliberately creating difficulties for him. Kang Seok clarified that he was in charge of the case. Representative Ham quipped that it didn't matter who was in charge, only that it was resolved quickly. Surprisingly, while Kang Seok's temporary restraining order was denied, Representative Ham had successfully filed his own. The judge announced a ban on the nurses' strike for 1 week. Kang Seok exposed the fact that Representative Ham had golfed with the judge the previous week and had bribed him. Representative Ham felt no shame in securing the temporary restraining order through bribery. Instead, he was proud of it. Regardless of the methods, his goal was to defeat Kang Seok in this confrontation. Kang Seok and Yeonwoo returned to the nursing home to speak with the head nurse, regardless of whether they agreed to the previous proposal. After 4 days, the nurses would be indefinitely barred from the nursing home. If this happened, they wouldn't receive any salary. Simultaneously, Kang Seok, understanding the impact the nurses' lockout would have on the nursing home residents, instructed Yeonwoo to immediately arrange for his grandmother's transfer. While visiting his grandmother, Yeonwoo unexpectedly encountered Representative Ham speaking with her. He questioned Representative Ham's presence. Representative Ham claimed his approach to the strike aligned with Yeonwoo's thinking. First, stop the strike, ideally by reaching an agreement with the head nurse, then continue negotiations. However, he expressed concern that the head nurse viewed him and Kang Seok negatively and wouldn't communicate. Yeonwoo volunteered to persuade the head nurse. Before doing so, he tried calling Kang Seok to inform him of his plan, but unfortunately couldn't reach him. When the head nurse met with Yeonwoo, she detailed their plight. Each nurse cared for an average of 15 patients, a heavy workload. They only hoped for increased staffing to alleviate the burden. Yeonwoo understood their predicament. Through his persuasion, the head nurse agreed to end the strike and resume negotiations. Back at the law firm, Yeonwoo presented the signed agreement to Kang Seok, a 20% increase in nursing staff, with the hospital board covering the necessary costs, and a corresponding decrease in the hospital's facade renovation budget. This budget reallocation was intended to appease the nurses. Kang Seok remained silent, leading Yeonwoo to believe he'd approved the agreement. However, Kang Seok then approached Representative Ham and exposed his scheme. The nursing home's initial request had been to reduce the number of nurses. Representative Ham had deliberately goaded Yeonwoo into negotiating with the head nurse, leading him to propose the increase in staffing. His aim was to create chaos and put Kang Seok in a difficult position. When the head nurse arrived at the law firm to finalize the agreement, Kang Seok unexpectedly announced layoffs. 23 veteran nurses, including the head nurse, were terminated, ostensibly for discrimination and bullying of newer staff. The head nurse was given an ultimatum: sign a contract agreeing to a 10% pay cut, or the terminations would take immediate effect. Seeing the notice, the head nurse felt betrayed and glared at Yeonwoo, who was equally blindsided by this sudden turn of events. He confronted Kang Seok, angrily criticizing his actions. Witnessing Yeonwoo's fury, Kang Seok reluctantly revealed that he had been manipulated by Representative Ham. Yeonwoo calmed down, pieced together the events, and realized the truth in Kang Seok's words. However, more painful than the deception itself was the shattering of his trust and respect for Kang Seok. He felt deeply disappointed. Representative Ham, observing the heated argument between Kang Seok and Yeon-woo, was delighted. To completely take down Kang Seok, he needed to eliminate his allies first. This was merely the opening act of a larger play, with more schemes and trials awaiting Kang Seok. On their commute, Kang Seok explained to Yeon-woo that the hospital's original request had been to decrease nursing staff. He was simply fulfilling his client's wishes. Had anything gone wrong, Representative Ham would have pinned the blame on Yeon-woo. Yeon-woo recounted how Representative Ham had approached him the previous night, suggesting that Kang Seok had either dirt on him or that Yeon-woo knew Kang Seok's weakness. Representative Ham concluded that they must have a relationship they needed to protect. After sharing their respective experiences, Kang Seok and Yeon-woo resolved their misunderstanding and reconciled. Secretary Hong then handed Kang Seok a lawsuit filed against Uno Motors, which Kang Seok represented. Kang Yong-ho's daughter, having lost her previous case, was suing the company again. 2 years prior, 55-year-old Kang Yong-ho had crashed an Uno vehicle into a tree. Of the 7 occupants, only his wife and son had died at the scene. Kang Yong-ho had filed a criminal lawsuit, alleging a steering malfunction. Kang Seok, representing Uno, had successfully refuted the claim. Kang Yong-ho had passed away the previous month. His daughter was now pursuing the case, claiming new evidence related to the 2-year-old accident. Kang Seok and Yeon-woo met with the opposing counsel, who turned out to be David, a familiar adversary. Kang Seok presented the previous settlement agreement. Kang Yong-ho, a person with a level 2 disability, had taken the driving test 33 times. He'd insisted the steering wheel was faulty, but the investigation had concluded that driver inexperience, not a vehicle defect, caused the crash. David then produced a report indicating a mechanical defect in the steering wheel. This was the result of an internal Uno quality control study, and the report was dated 3 months before the accident. At the time, Uno's sales representative, aware of this report, had supposedly sent an identical copy to Kang Seok. Kang Seok was bewildered. He had no knowledge of this report and had never seen it. David accused him of feigning ignorance and demanded 2 billion won in compensation for Kang Yong-ho's daughter, also filing suit against Kang Seok and his law firm. He threatened that if evidence surfaced proving Kang Seok had received the report prior to the accident, he would file criminal charges that would land Kang Seok in jail. Kang Seok returned to the law firm and recounted the case's developments to Representative Kang, firmly denying he ever received the report David mentioned. To be absolutely certain, he instructed Secretary Hong to search the archives, leaving no stone unturned. Yeon-woo assisted Secretary Hong in the search. Hours passed without finding the report. Then, Yeon-woo discovered documents in the Uno vehicle belonging to an inspector, whom he identified as the report's author. The documents revealed the inspector submitted 2 to 3 reports weekly. However, after submitting the handwritten report regarding the steering wheel, the inspector had been placed on paid leave, with no further record of his employment. The company likely feared that firing him would expose the steering defect. Yeon-woo proudly presented the inspector's address to Kang Seok, boasting that only he could help him in this situation. In high spirits, he took Jae-na and her grandmother out for dinner after work, gifting Jae-na a ring. She spontaneously kissed him, and they officially began dating. The next day, Kang Seok, armed with the report, located the inspector. The inspector confirmed the report's accuracy but denied writing it. He explained that upon discovering the steering defect, he'd reported it to the sales representative. The representative promised to fix the issue and ordered him not to write a report. The defect was subsequently corrected in manufacturing, but not in vehicles already sold, leading to the accident 3 months later. Kang Seok intercepted the sales representative's car. He removed the dashcam and yanked the steering wheel, causing the car to swerve uncontrollably. The terrified representative struggled to regain control. Kang Seok angrily confronted him. 2 years ago, I stood by you because you swore with unwavering conviction that the steering wheel was flawless. Now the truth is out. Luckily, this time you won't be using me. He threatened to ensure the sales representative joined Kang Yong-ho's daughter in receiving justice unless a satisfactory settlement was reached. Under duress, the sales representative agreed to settle and compensate Kang Yong-ho's daughter. Meanwhile, back at the law firm, Secretary Hong had located the handwritten report in the archives and was shocked to discover her signature on it. She had indeed received the document but had forgotten to deliver it to Kang Seok. To avoid causing trouble, she'd shredded the report. However, Yeon-woo had witnessed her actions. Recognizing her unusual behavior, he deduced she possessed the report and urged her to give it to Kang Seok, offering to explain the situation if she wouldn't. Secretary Hong went to Kang Seok's office, prepared to confess, but was interrupted by Representative Ham. Kang Seok had intended to handle the matter discreetly to prevent Representative Ham from gaining leverage. However, Lawyer Key had bugged his desk and informed Representative Ham of the situation. Representative Ham barged into Kang Seok's office, proposing they set aside their differences to present a united front in negotiations with David. He successfully persuaded David to drop the lawsuit against their firm on the condition that Kang Seok sign a statement confirming he had never seen the report. Just as Kang Seok was about to sign, Yeon-woo burst in, intentionally falling to stop him. Kang Seok saw through his clumsy acting and asked what was going on. Yeon-woo confessed that Secretary Hong had found the report. Kang Seok found Secretary Hong in the document room. He scolded her for not reporting it to him immediately. Furthermore, finding the report would be advantageous for them. The other party claimed the report didn't exist. If he and Secretary Hong were intentionally hiding it, they wouldn't have left it in the document room. Clearly, it was a forged report, planted by someone trying to frame them. The newly found report could be used as evidence that they were being falsely accused. Upon hearing this, Secretary Hong burst into tears. Representative Ham had met with her yesterday. Fearing repercussions for Kang Seok, she had panicked and shredded the report. Kang Seok was furious. Destroying evidence was a crime. At this point, he couldn't protect her. Representative Kang, not wanting to put Kang Seok in a difficult position, personally dismissed Secretary Hong. Kang Seok drowned his sorrows in alcohol, blaming himself for not being able to save her. He then went to Yeon-woo's house, worried that Representative Ham's schemes wouldn't end there. He feared Yeon-woo would be implicated. He told Yeon-woo that if anything else went wrong, she should find her own way out. Soon after, Representative Ham informed Representative Kang of David's settlement terms: fire Kang Seok, hand him over to the committee, and disbar him. Otherwise, he would publicly expose the firm's mistakes. Representative Kang realized that Representative Ham had meticulously planned this all to get rid of Kang Seok. Kang Seok refused to settle, determined to go to trial. Representative Kang worried about the impact on the law firm, with Kang Seok being a senior partner. Any misstep could affect the entire firm. After careful consideration, Representative Kang, against Kang Seok's wishes, accepted the settlement, with the prerequisite that David clearly prove Kang Seok's wrongdoing. David came to the firm to negotiate, deliberately provoking Kang Seok with insults. Kang Seok punched him. David used this as an excuse to refuse the settlement, determined to put Kang Seok behind bars. To help Kang Seok, Yeon-woo asked Representative Kang to give him one last chance, a mock trial to prove he could win in court. Representative Kang, acting as Kang Seok's defense attorney, argued that if they could prove his innocence in the mock trial, demonstrating a high probability of winning the real case, they could confidently face David in court. Representative Kang worried that Representative Ham wouldn't accept this. Yeon-woo told her to follow his instructions to persuade him. Representative Kang followed Yeon-woo's plan and negotiated with Representative Ham, proposing the mock trial. If Kang Seok lost, she would voluntarily resign as representative. She also had a condition: Yeon-woo would be the prosecutor against Kang Seok. To convince Representative Ham, Yeon-woo claimed the mock trial was his idea. He declared that Kang Seok's time was over and that he was ready to join Representative Ham's side, defeating Kang Seok in the mock trial. Representative Ham, suspicious of Yeon-woo's motives but also eager to undermine Representative Kang, agreed to the mock trial after careful consideration, but insisted that Lawyer Key, one of his own, be the lead prosecutor. The mock trial soon began. Lawyer Key, during his opening statement, questioned Kang Seok about constantly teasing him. Kang Seok explained it was just playful banter between colleagues, but Lawyer Key wouldn't let it go. He criticized Kang Seok for never reflecting on his behavior or apologizing, and even accused him of carrying that playful attitude into his work, leading to Kang Yang-ho's wrongful dismissal. Representative Kang countered by telling the story of a sandwich cart in front of the firm. It was once a simple street food stall run by an elderly woman. Now, her son ran the cart, but no one knew Kang Seok was the true owner. He had bought the new cart for the woman's mute son to provide him with a livelihood and a place to wait for his mother's return, as she suffered from dementia and was becoming increasingly frail. Kang Seok had never told anyone this story because he knew that once someone has something to protect, they also have a weakness. To survive in the law firm, he couldn't let others know his weaknesses. Representative Kang's speech moved everyone present. Representative Ham, on the jury, sensed trouble and asked Yeon-woo for a counter-strategy. Yeon-woo reassured him, saying he would precisely target Kang Seok's weakness. Next, at Yeon-woo's request, Secretary Hong appeared as a witness. Yeon-woo questioned her. If Kang Seok had instructed you to destroy evidence, would you have obeyed? Secretary Hong hesitated, unable to answer. Yeon-woo pressed further, pointing out that she and Kang Seok had known each other for 13 years, and she always prioritized his wishes. He then asked, "Is it because you have feelings for Kang Seok?" The room erupted in murmurs. Unfazed by the reaction, Yeon-woo continued to press Secretary Hong, asking if she was in love with Kang Seok. Secretary Hong, who had long harbored secret feelings for Kang Seok, couldn't bring herself to admit it in this situation. Seeing Secretary Hong on the verge of tears, Kang Seok tried to stop Yeon-woo, but he relentlessly demanded an answer. Feeling deeply humiliated, Secretary Hong abruptly stood up and left, using Kang Seok's closest confidante against him, leaving him completely blindsided. Representative Ham was pleased with Yeon-woo's performance. Pressing his advantage, Yeon-woo left Kang Seok reeling. He brought up Representative Seo of Uno Motors, who had initially refused to settle with Kang Yong-ho's daughter but suddenly changed his mind. He suggested that Representative Seo had been threatened by Kang Seok and that he wanted to question him. Representative Ham, now placing great trust in Yeon-woo, assigned him the task. As Yeon-woo left, Jae-na, confused by his actions in the mock trial, felt he was trying to destroy both Kang Seok and Secretary Hong. Yeon-woo looked at her intently but said nothing, turning and walking away. During the mock trial's recess, Yeon-woo went to see Representative Seo of Uno Motors, explaining that he had been sent by Representative Ham. Seeing Seo's disbelief, he immediately called Representative Ham. By forcing Secretary Hong out of the courtroom and putting Kang Seok in a difficult position, Yeon-woo had completely gained Representative Ham's trust. Representative Ham acknowledged Yeon-woo as one of his own and was now ready to answer his questions frankly. While Yeon-woo was away, the mock trial continued. Representative Kang called for a jury vote to determine the winner. Representative Ham requested, before the vote, a show of hands on whether to promote Attorney Key to senior partner. His reasoning was to retain clients who were feeling bewildered, worried, and insecure. In this situation, it was essential to avoid losing talent. Representative Ham then called for the vote, and the majority raised their hands in favor. Upon receiving news of the promotion's approval, Attorney Key was overjoyed, beaming from ear to ear. He strutted back to the mock courtroom, chest puffed out, to participate in the final vote. Next, Representative Ham declared, "Kang Seok is a lawyer who has engaged in illegal activities. As Kang Seok's superior, Representative Kang is also difficult to absolve of responsibility." Representative Ham aimed to kill two birds with one stone, eliminating both Kang Seok and Representative Kang at the same time. Accused of illegal activity without evidence, Kang Seok demanded proof. Just then, Yeon-woo burst through the door. Representative Ham, smug, announced that the proof Kang Seok demanded would be revealed by Yeon-woo. He promised everyone present that if Kang Seok were innocent, he would resign from his position as representative. Yeon-woo inserted a USB drive into a computer, and a recording between himself and representatives played. Representative S, having been instructed by Representative Ham, had let down his guard with Yeon-woo. Answering Yeon-woo's questions, he admitted that the inspection staff had reported the steering wheel issue. He had met with Representative Ham that day. The two of them had been evading legal repercussions. Representative Ham had known about the steering wheel issue and had personally written the report. The recording proved that Representative Ham, knowing about the faulty steering wheel, concealed the information from the law firm, deliberately allowed Kang Seok to take the case, and was now intentionally framing Kang Seok, wanting to expel him from the firm. Meanwhile, Yeon-woo had outwardly been subservient to Representative Ham, gaining his trust, but his true intention was to help Kang Seok. When Representative Ham tried to deny the accusations, Yeon-woo delivered another blow. He presented 2 copies of the report written by Representative Ham, one from Davis and another found in the document room. It was verified that the report hadn't been stamped until 2 years later. The stamp was added after Representative Ham's return, and through Attorney Key. A completely bewildered Attorney Key offered an explanation, and surveillance footage was played. Upon his return, Representative Ham had asked Attorney Key to report on the firm's lawsuits. The documents Attorney Key retrieved from the document room were part of this request. However, when returning the documents, Representative Ham casually asked him to return an additional file, the report in question. Attorney Key remembered this incident. Realizing he had been unwittingly used, he collapsed into his chair in shock. The truth was exposed. The evaluation committee unanimously agreed that Representative Ham was guilty. Representative Kang declared Representative Ham demoted from representative to partner. Kang and Yeon-woo had defeated Representative Ham together. Back in the office, Yeon-woo extended his hand for a celebratory high five. This time, Kang Seok took his hand, reminding him they still had a tough battle ahead. Together, they went to apologize to Secretary Hong. Yeon-woo apologized for coercing Secretary Hong during the mock trial, explaining it was necessary to gain Representative Ham's trust. Secretary Hong unexpectedly embraced him, thanking him for saving Kang Seok, clearing her name, and getting her reinstated. Uncomfortable with the embrace, Yeon-woo quickly excused himself after explaining. Left alone together, the atmosphere turned slightly awkward. Kang Seok asked Secretary Hong when she started liking him. Mortified, Secretary Hong shooed him away. Meanwhile, Yeon-woo went to find Jae-na to explain the misunderstanding. Unfortunately, Jae-na had already left work. Disappointed, he went to the nursing home to visit his grandmother. He found Jae-na there, happily chatting with his grandmother. Jae-na, having already understood everything, praised Yeon-woo for his bravery and intelligence in saving Kang Seok and Secretary Hong. Her only complaint was that he hadn't told her beforehand. Yeon-woo wanted to tell Jae-na about not having a license to practice law, but the words caught in his throat. Jae-na, sensing he had something to say, comforted him, saying she would wait until he was ready. On the other hand, the demoted Representative Ham was not reconciled to his fate. To turn the tables, he investigated Attorney Kim, a recent hire at the firm. He confronted her, revealing that her brother had been involved in a violence incident in the military. When Attorney Kim was a prosecutor, she had intervened, turning the victim into the perpetrator, allowing her brother to escape punishment. He used this information to blackmail Attorney Kim into revealing Kang Seok's secrets. Armed with Kang Seok's weakness, Representative Ham immediately went to see Yeon-woo. He exposed Yeon-woo's high school education and the fact that he had no law license. He ordered Yeon-woo to relay a message to Kang Seok, come personally and beg for reconciliation. At the same time, Jae-na's mother, a representative of the Kim and Zhao law firm, approached Representative Kang, expressing her intention to acquire Kang & M. Recently, Kang & M had encountered numerous problems, and many clients had chosen to terminate their contracts. Representative Kang, wanting to save the firm, considered merging the best option. Representative Kang was tempted for the sake of the firm's survival. Kang Seok advised her against it. Kim and Zhao's goal was to devour Kang & M. Agreeing would be like walking into a lion's den. Yeon-woo realized one of the reasons Kang Seok opposed the merger was that once the process began, the organization would investigate the employees. His lack of a license would be discovered. But even if Kang Seok disagreed, it was futile. Representative Ham already knew his secret. Kang Seok's face paled upon hearing this. He immediately went to find Representative Ham to negotiate. He promised to restore Representative Ham to his former position in exchange for keeping Yeon-woo's secret. After appeasing Representative Ham, Kang Seok asked Representative Kang to temporarily hold off on agreeing to the merger. He assured her he would find a solution. Back in the office, Kang Seok gathered Attorney Key and Yeon-woo to organize documents related to the merger countermeasures, working together to protect the law firm. Attorney Key, having been previously harmed by Representative Ham, readily helped and joined forces with them. After a period of intense work, Kang Seok had a sudden realization. Previously, the Kim and Zhao representative had always wanted to take over Kang and Am, but this time the approach was framed as a friendly acquisition. Perhaps Kim and Zhao was facing problems. The merger could be a trap, and the one setting it was likely Representative Ham. From a group photo, Kang Seok learned that David's law firm had ties to Kim and Zhao. To counterattack, he asked David for proof of Kim and Zhao's crisis. Despite their fierce rivalry, David ultimately held his ground, refusing to assist the villain. He chose to help Kang Seok instead of colluding with Representative Ham. After reviewing the documents, Kang Seok explained Representative Ham's merger trap to Representative Kang and Attorney Key. But the despicable Representative Ham was one step ahead. He sent an email exposing Yeon Woo's lack of a license and his pretense of being a lawyer to the other employees. Chaos erupted in the firm. Representative Kang demanded an explanation from Kang Seok. Furious, Kang Seok stormed out to confront Representative Ham. At the critical moment, Yeon Woo called him back. Kang Seok, eyes red with anger, glared at Yeon Woo. He demanded Yeon Woo leave the law firm first, then burst into Representative Ham's office. He swept everything off the desk in a rage, yelling, "This law firm will never belong to a scoundrel like him." Representative Kang, enraged, sought out Kang Seok to hold him accountable for hiring fake lawyers and disrupting the office. "This is a grave mistake," he ordered Kang Seok. "Submit your resignation immediately." Kang Seok slammed a resignation letter, already written since Yeon Woo's first day, onto the desk and stormed off. Representative Kang ordered Attorney Key to silence the partners. The matter was to be handled discreetly and kept completely confidential. Dejected, Yeon Woo met with Jai Na. He berated himself for his naive ambition, claiming he was unworthy of Jai Na because he had nothing to offer yet clung to his dreams of success. Jai Na rejected Yeon Woo's self-deprecation. Their love was genuine and had nothing to do with external circumstances. She would wait for him until he no longer doubted himself, until he could stand before her with confidence. Pushing aside his self-reproach, Yeon Woo began investigating Kim and Zhao's motives for wanting to merge with the law firm. After uncovering the truth, he went to Kang Seok's home to explain his findings. The next day, Attorney Key managed to temporarily suppress the rumors and advised Representative Kang to isolate Kang Seok from Yeon Woo in order to accuse him. Kang Seok proposed a shareholders' meeting. Yeon Woo, having found evidence, wanted to expose Kim and Zhao's true face himself at the meeting. Yeon Woo also had his own plan. He decided to turn himself in. Before doing so, he visited his grandmother in the hospital, lying that he was going abroad to study for a few years. She believed him, hoping he could finish his interrupted education. Yeon Woo sobbed, promising to buy a nice house upon his return and live with her. After saying goodbye, he went to the police station and confessed. Simultaneously, Representative Kang presided over the shareholders meeting to vote on the merger and Kang Seok's dismissal. Before the vote, Kang Seok distributed documents to the shareholders, promising that if they still wanted the merger after hearing him out, there was no need to vote, he would resign. He then revealed the results of his investigation. Kim and Zhao was facing a financial crisis. If they agreed to the merger, they would shoulder Kim and Zhao's financial risks. To conceal their ineligibility for the merger, Kim and Zhao had falsified their financial reports. The reason the fabricated figures were so undetectable was that someone had helped Kim and Zhao analyze Kang and Ham's financial reports in detail. Based entirely on Kang and Ham's actual situation, they had generated plausible figures. This proved there was a leak within the firm. Kang Seok then revealed, the house in Los Angeles under Representative Ham's wife's name was officially transferred yesterday to his daughter. The inside man is clear as day. He exposed Representative Ham's true objective, not to return to the firm, but to ruin it and everyone in it. With the truth revealed, Representative Kang lamented that without Yeon Woo, they would have fallen into Representative Ham's trap. The shareholders unanimously voted against the merger, and Representative Ham was expelled from the firm. Representative Kang declared the meeting adjourned. As the shareholders' meeting drew to a close, Kang Seok recalled his final conversation with Yeon Woo the previous night, where Yeon Woo had earnestly entrusted his grandmother's care to him. He asked for a moment of everyone's time. He confessed that Yeon Woo was not a lawyer, had never studied law, and had no license to practice. But Yeon Woo had repeatedly saved the firm from crisis and was a valuable member. Grateful for Yeonwoo's contributions, Kang Seok wanted to protect him. Representative Kang agreed, on the condition that it wouldn't harm the firm. However, as Kang Seok prepared to go to the prosecutor's office, he received a call. Yeonwoo's grandmother had suddenly passed away. Heartbreakingly, Yeonwoo made arrangements for her funeral. Attorney Ki appeared at the prosecutor's office and bailed Yeonwoo out. Yeonwoo hadn't realized their last meeting would be their final goodbye. He thanked Kang Seok for taking care of his grandmother, calling it his greatest comfort. Attorney Kim apologized to Kang Seok for breaking her promise and revealing Yeonwoo's secret, admitting she had always wondered why Kang Seok had chosen him. Kang Seok replied that Yeonwoo was different from her. Faced with his mistake, Yeonwoo had chosen to confess, and Kang Seok hoped Attorney Kim would also make the right decision. Understanding his meaning, Attorney Kim resigned from the firm. After his grandmother's funeral, Yeonwoo returned to the prosecutor's office to await sentencing. Kang Seok reassured him that he wouldn't let him be convicted. Yeonwoo confessed his initial motivations for joining the firm. He knew he wasn't qualified, but he selfishly desired to enter a different world. Having made a mistake, he wanted to rectify it, ensuring the firm and Kang Seok wouldn't suffer any consequences. He extended his hand towards Kang Seok. This time, Kang Seok reciprocated. At the trial, Kang Seok, acting as Yeonwoo's lawyer, requested to use Yeonwoo's final statement as his defense, wanting Yeonwoo to plead his own case. Yeonwoo offered no excuses, accepting full responsibility and not asking for leniency. He echoed his grandmother's words, "Everyone makes mistakes. It's commendable to acknowledge and rectify them." He viewed the punishment as a chance to start anew. Yeonwoo was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Kang Seok visited Yeonwoo, who finally asked the question that had been on his mind: why had Kang Seok chosen him? This time, Kang Seok opened his heart. He knew the prestigious, but corrupt, law firm was in danger. Every lawyer, including himself, had forgotten their initial purpose, simply following procedures, unable to comprehend the pain or empathize with their clients. "Yeonwoo," he said, "unlike them, you cared more about understanding the victim than the case itself." Kang Seok admired that quality in Yeonwoo, believing that having Yeonwoo's golden presence beside him would prevent him from losing his own way. Yeonwoo concluded that they were kindred spirits, touched but unwilling to admit it aloud. 2 years passed quickly. Yeonwoo walked out of prison, greeted by the open sky and awaiting Kang Seok. Kang Seok extended his hand, but Yeonwoo playfully brushed it aside, striding towards the car. Together, they embarked on a new chapter of their lives.